Odinga. Now, let me be clear on this issue. First, I know that, most particularly in the Senate, sometimes it also baffled me. And I wondered why Jubilee had to keep Murkomen as majority leader that long. Because take the example of the latest, the issue of Nairobi Metropolitan. It was very clear that the leader of majority in the Senate then was so much against a government and executive agenda, an agenda that the president himself has overseen the signing of the MOU at State House. And he comes out publicly to speak against that agenda. Two, on the issue of corruption, how many times has Murkomen in the past talked at cross purposes with the president? That is not expected in any civilized democracy. I hear people talk about...
But let me interject and ask you to explain how exactly, you know, it's one thing to politic, but how does it stop the implementation of agenda? For instance, let's talk about budgets, and I think Nzioka alluded to that. Are you saying that there has been gross misconduct on the part of parliamentary committees in the sense that they have been redistributing resources contrary to what the executive agenda was, to an extent that you could actually blame any non-performance on Parliament and its leadership?
I don't think anyone is blaming the former leader of majority or the parliamentary leadership on the maybe failed performance on the side of the executive. What we are saying is you require Parliament for any executive to deliver on its mandate, because budgetary process is a function of Parliament. And therefore, you need to be so sure, so certain with the leadership of Parliament for you to be able to deliver. And therefore, if the president feels that going forward, he doesn't believe that the leader of majority or any other leadership of Senate or National Assembly is not likely to deliver on some of the agenda that he has, he is at liberty, and that party is at liberty to replace leadership, to have a leadership that would work and cause synergy between the executive and Parliament.
All right, Nzioka, this move also appears to be a case of seeing the speck in another's eye better than the one in your own eye. If the political culling is needed, it is surely also needed in the executive, is it not? And as Chief of Staff, do you need to be doing some whipping of your own, of course, with the permission of the President?
I can't speak for the political side of it, but I can tell you in January 2019, the President rejigged completely the functioning of the executive under Executive Order number 1 of 2019. And I can tell you that under the leadership of the Cabinet Committee Chair, Dr. Matiang'i, we have seen significant progress, movement and traction in the execution of the government agenda. If there are those whom the President has different views of, he has not expressed those publicly, and I'm sure he will do so at his own time.
All right. Badia, finally, a budget is coming likely to contain COVID-19 stimulus spending. As a party, you have had a chance, a chance to peruse those proposals, and are you satisfied with what the executive has proposed so far? Can Nzioka here rest easy that all government agenda will from now on pass now that they have your cooperation?
Thank you. I think the budget is with us first as a House of Parliament, National Assembly. We have the budget, including the proposed amendments on the economic stimulus. First of all, it should be understood that the first budget that was tabled in Parliament before the end of April did not contain the 53.7 billion that is being offered by government as economic stimulus package.
Right.
I remember we made comments in Parliament that, and I'm one of the MPs who spoke, that we don't see that this budget, even though we have not started formal discussion on the budget, that we don't see it focusing or being sensitive to COVID-19. Now with the 53.7 billion, at least there is some effort towards alleviating some of the effects of COVID-19. But if I had time, I would have spoken about this economic stimulus package. I would say it is good. It's a good starting point, but there's a lot still needs to be done. We have shared and engaged with the CS Treasury, and we have been and we have also listened to him because he says that where we are today, you cannot predict with certainty the ultimate effect of this COVID-19. And as we move forward, we will still be assessing, and if need be, more adjustment will be required and more economic stimulus will still be offered. Now, as a party, you asked me, yes, this is something that we are looking at, and you must, I'm sure, and you know, that that is my area, and I'm the leader of a minority, and I'm the leader of the party in the National Assembly. This is something that we are looking at. We have suggestions that we will present on the floor of the House through me and other members who will get opportunity to speak. And so we will spell out some of the proposals that we think going forward needs to be added.
All right. Yes. Thanks, gentlemen. Badi will be back with us a little later in the program, but after the break, we'll take a look at Corona economics and the President's stimulus plan with Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita. We're back after this. Director, you're on. And welcome back to Punchline. Nzioka Waita, the President's Chief of Staff, is back with us. And we are shifting gears now to discuss the Corona economics and the President's stimulus plan. But first, I just want to start with the coronavirus pandemic itself. Nzioka, it seems to have affected everything, the economy especially, but not politics. And there's been public outrage regarding the blatantly skewed implementation of social distancing rules. And we want to show you some pictures now. So, some of the most senior officials in government, coupled with political party leaders, perhaps we can take a look at that picture now, and other leaders who appear to be politically correct, appear to be getting away with the very worst things. As one of the senior most officials in the government and at the heart of the presidency, why is there one set of rules for everyday Kenyans and another for the politically correct?
I don't think that's the case. I just feel that like the President said earlier today, the responsibility is a very individual responsibility. The coronavirus does not know Jubilee Party, does not know any political status. The leaders should know better. They should keep social distance and they should wear their masks because the disease will impact them individually and they will take it to their homes individually and they will suffer individually in their homesteads. So I would only want to re-emphasize that those people should comply with the guidelines from the Ministry of Health.
But when you look at the police response, it appears to be quite happy on the part of the ordinary citizen and non-existent when it comes to others.
Our policemen have done an exceptional job. They have worked long hours. They have supervised curfews. They are looking at border management right now across our borders where we have problems in neighboring countries. So I would not take one or two incidences as being representative of the response of the security services. I think they have done an exceptional job in safeguarding and keeping this country in good stead.
Nzioka, I want you to take a look at the pictures on your screen right now. If you could play those pictures. That is the image of a young man. His name is Samuel Maina. He was brutalized by police for allegedly getting home late. That cannot be the good job that you're referring to as far as police conduct, and neither is it just one or two cases. We have seen Kenyans die at the hand of police officers and not at COVID-19. Surely, how is this defensible?
I'm not going to defend, and I think let me speak, because earlier today in our daily briefing, I spoke with the Interior Cabinet Secretary, and he was quite categorical in the case of Samuel Maina that he has directed the Inspector General of Police to investigate the matter, to find out what happened at Kahawa West, and to give a report to him before the end of the week. So there has been no reluctance whatsoever on the part of the security services to investigate misconduct, and misconduct is treated as such. But we have over 100,000 policemen on the ground. We have 47 million Kenyans. There will be incidences that will occur from time to time, and in fairness, we have seen Kenyans are not the easiest people to manage or to police, but it's no excuse to met out any form of violence or excessive use of force on them. But for me, where I stand, and is that there has been absolutely no reticence on the part of the police to investigate individual officers where those issues are brought to light. So those issues, it just so happens, is what makes the news. But they're in the minority. Every day, millions of people go home, stay within the curfew, stay within the guidelines, and there are no incidences. But when they do occur, of course, in the current scenario, they will come to the fore and they will get public attention. But the assurance I would want to give you and to anyone watching is that the security services, led by the Inspector General himself, will investigate and take necessary action.
And just a final question, and very briefly, if you would, Nzioka, because I actually know you, and many would believe that you're probably as decent as they come when it comes to government officials. You're a young Kenyan man, you're a Kenyan father, and there appears to be a repetition of bad behavior or some sort of... one can't really explain what it is a police officer sees when he sees a young Kenyan man. And I wonder what your own personal commitment as, not just as Nzioka Waita, the President's Chief of Staff, but Nzioka, a Kenyan citizen, is in order to ensure that this actually stops, because it happens way too many times. Whether you're talking about post-election violence or you're talking about Kenyans just trying to get home, it happens one too many times. It appears like there isn't that kind of appreciation from the part of the executive that one time is too many times.
I don't think in any other administration the number of police officers who have been interdicted has come anywhere close to what this administration has done. The Inspector General, the current Inspector General, his predecessor, have all been so committed to the rule of law. The Police Service Commission, IPOA, have been given a free hand to do their jobs and to deal with this. Now, it goes without saying that in a country where you have 70% young people, there will be infractions of the law. There will be clash and points of conflict. Invariably, it is young people who will go out to protest an issue or will be involved in some form of skirmish with the security services. There is no deliberate targeting of young men anywhere. And where it has been shown that the police have used excessive force, that has been dealt with decisively. And I just want to assure you, if there's something that the president really holds true to himself, is that he has overseen perhaps one of the biggest reforms in the security services since independence, both in terms of their welfare, in terms of their equipment, in terms of their mobility. And his challenge to them has been, please serve the people in a way that they expect. So he will not tolerate incidences where the police abuse their powers in any form.
Right, so we certainly look forward to seeing what not tolerating that abuse will look like in the case of Samuel Maina and many others who have died. I want us to switch gears now and talk about corona economics, if you like, and listen to what the president had to say earlier in an interview.
Process that we have, and that's why I said I sought to depoliticize it this time round. I sought to say, let us use the Nyumba Kumis, let us use local administrators, let us use local, religious leaders to pick and do all of these things. Let us also increase our use of technology, And that's why, for example, as I was saying, even in terms of food distribution and so on, I've said, no, let us identify the persons, let us give them the cash, let them decide what to buy. Let it not be that we're going to brokers and other cartel groups to buy food and go and distribute. Give the individual the money. Let them go out there. Let them do what they need to do. That's why I've also focused around and saying, let this particular stimulus be about especially wale wananchi wenzetu wa mashinani. And that's why we're actually calling it kazi mtaani, so that we start to develop our inner cities, we start to develop our slum areas, and using their own labor, because they are the ones who know where their problems are, shida zao ziko wapi. We focus, on that. And again, this is the other reason why I am very keen and I will not stop in pushing my fight against corruption, because it is corruption, it is cartels that have driven and have made a mess of some of the previous interventions. And that's why I've said I don't want political interference, I don't want interference from, let the decisions be made at the grassroots level. Let the people there decide who deserves, who needs, who should be working, and we roll this program, as opposed from top saying this is what you're going to do, let it come from bottom up.
Nzioka, that's what the president's intention is, but as you've heard throughout the week, even from John Badi himself on this program, the biggest criticism of this 53.7 billion is that it's a drop in the ocean compared to our trillion shilling needs. Now, you recently in an interview intimated that this stimulus is the second such intervention following those on tax on 175 billion shillings. First, is it clear to the administration the size of the financial hole that we're in and how long we'll be in it for in order to come up with a very clear economic plan?
That is all we do. Right now, we have men and women whose only work it is to continue doing scenario planning around this crisis. And this COVID pandemic does not affect Kenya alone. It affects the whole world. We are in what people call, we're in a blue sky space. Anything can happen. There is no end date to COVID. So we cannot say on the 3rd of September, COVID will be gone and it will be away with us. But we have made decisions that recognize that because we are not in control of when this disease ends, we have seen how it has manifested in our population, and we are now able to assess the kind of risks that we are prepared to take. We have looked at our health systems and the capacity for us to manage sick people. We have looked at the mortality rate of the disease, and all our decisions are data-driven.
But in terms of that scenario planning, do you know, for instance, in absolute terms, that should we still be in this kind of curfew mode until what, in the next 6 months, that this is the kind of hole we're looking at in the economy? I'm just looking for something very quantitative.
You know, the good thing with money, it's either coming in or going out. So you can count it when it comes in, and you can plan it for when it goes out.
How much has gone out?
So we know what is coming in, and we know what we are planning to spend. And that's why we were so confident in the measures that we have articulated. And we are also very careful to cut our suit according to our cloth. So many people may want to see more, but they know the resource envelope is finite. They know they themselves are sitting at home and they're not able to pay taxes. So, you know, we can only respond proportionate to what we have. And the stimulus package, I beg to differ. For me, I think it's quite seismic. If you look at the measures that were taken in March on the tax amendment laws, corporate tax down from 30 to 25%, PAYE down from 30 to 25%. Those at the bottom of the food chain, earning less than 50,000, paying the least amount of PAYE. When you look at turnover tax from 3 to 1% and widening that bracket, the wisdom of the National Assembly was to widen it to 50 million shillings a year. So we've brought a bit of warmth to some of the sectors that were hardest hit.
But seismic compared to what? Compared to what depth of need? How are you measuring that?
You know, we can only compare ourselves with where we have come from, right? And for the government to make a decision to lower some of these taxes, these are not pedestrian decisions. Our top tax rate has not changed probably for the last 30 or 40 years, you know, and I'm sure that our next speaker will bear me witness that never have they seen a proposal come to the National Assembly which shaves off the key revenue earning tax points for the state. But this has been done because we need to give our businesses a chance. Those that are still operating, and those, even though they're operating at probably a much more subdued rate, we need to give them some breathing space. The total value of that intervention you know, is well in excess of 230 billion shillings. Now, if we look at that out of a 2.7 trillion budget, out of that 2.7 trillion budget, maybe 1.8 trillion is recurrent.
Some would use the word underwhelming.
It's not underwhelming because where do they think money is coming from? These are extraordinary expenses. People who have not run exchequers or who have not run government might be the ones to comment on this basis. But anyone who has sat in the National Treasury, anyone who has sat in a position of apportioning these funds will know that these are very important and critical interventions that have been made.
Fair enough, perhaps not enough, a matter of debate. We'll see going forward. Yes. Is it time to reconsider the plan for Kenya? Is Vision 2030 Big Four, which even tonight the President has said is still very much his agenda, given the revenue shortfall that you're expecting, really reasonable?
You know, you must stick to strategic intent. What you can vary along the way is your tactics. Now, the corona pandemic has raised, of course, it has changed the roadmap, but it has changed the roadmap for the near term, what we can see. Does that change the priorities of the country? I don't think so. The Big Four, you know, was informed out of household survey work that was done by KNBS in terms of what pains our citizens most. Living in dignity, access to affordable food and nutrition, access to affordable healthcare, no matter where they are, and jobs. So I don't feel that there will be any need to change the strategic intent. Maybe the mode of execution will have to change to adapt to the realities of today. And the realities of today is that our resources have shrunk. We must prioritize the areas that will give us the quickest return and that will complement the recovery of this country in the COVID pandemic context.
All right, we are running out of time, so two quick questions. First, those who say those resources have shrunk not just as a result of COVID-19, but directly because of the poor fiscal management of this administration, unsustainable debt levels, runaway corruption, and much more. Is it not the case that the administration is hiding behind COVID-19 when an economic slump was already with us? In fact, the former central bank governor has gone as far as to say on this program, we were already in a recession anyway.
Yes, but it was not a Kenya-specific recession. You know, let's put things into context. Kenya has been growing on average between 5.7 to 6%. We have outgrown the continent in terms of growth rate. The African continent was growing on average about 3.5%, right? And the world as a whole was growing between 1 to 2% per annum GDP growth. So we have been growing consistently. Anyone who would suggest otherwise would be lying because the numbers don't support that. In terms of fiscal prudence and fiscal management, again, these are issues of conjecture. If the country was insolvent, your auctioneers would be at the door, but they're not.
They're at the door of various businesses.
The fact of the matter is that Kenya is a going concern. We are able to service our debts. We are able to utilize our debts for the intended purposes. As far as the issues of corruption go, I think the president articulated himself quite clearly earlier that he's not stopping on this. He has made immensely difficult decisions about corruption. The DPP, the EACC, the DCI, the institutions charged with this work have been working overtime for the last 2 years. That has dominated the news. Whether it's politicized or not, that's a different story. But the supply chain of people who have been charged with corruption is so long, but there seems to be a backlog in the judiciary. I believe the judiciary now has the goodwill to do what it needs to do. I'm sure a lot of Kenyans still want to see people being charged and being jailed and paying for their sins.
All right. Unfortunately, your sins will have to end there, Nzioka, because we're absolutely out of time.
No
but
problem.
Thank you very much for coming on the program, and you're welcome again.
Thank you.
All right. Nzioka Waita, President's Chief of Staff. When we return, we delve back into murky politics with National Assembly Minority Leader John Badi. Stay with us. Welcome back to Punchline. It's time to make new enemies of old friends as a wave of political realignments sweeps major parties. Well, back with us now is ODM Chairman and National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi. So NASA this week also made changes to House leadership. The decisions made were contested by Musalia Mudavadi, ANC party leader, and Moses Wetangula, who was until today's coup Ford Kenya's bona fide party leader. Now, some say ODM is using strong-arm tactics, bullying others and other members of the alliance who disagree not just with routine changes, but also with the political cooperation between Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta. What do you say?
Thanks once again, Anne, for having me back. Let me put it this way. The meeting that removed Chris Wamalwa as the deputy minority leader and decided to de-whip about 9 members of parliament was a meeting of NASA parliamentary group, the National Assembly. That meeting was attended by a total of 108 members present, and about 16 sent apology out of 135. So you can say the attendance rate was about 90%. The decisions that were taken unanimously, and I think only one case was contested. The case of Tindi Mwale was contested by Ayub Savula, but he was overruled. And if the leadership of our parties have chosen leadership in the National Assembly and the Senate, we must be given latitude and space to perform our functions and our duties. I'm the minority leader in the National Assembly. Junaid Mohammed is in a minority whip. We have my deputies, Robert Mbui, and now the new deputy minority whip is Selis Miu. All of us were present. The attendance was as I've said. And so this decision was taken by parliamentary group.
Yeah, but it originated elsewhere, didn't it?
It was not taken by
For
ODM.
instance, Badi, sorry, because of time, your party leader held a meeting with Eugene Wamalwa, Wafula Wamunyinyi, and Eseli Simiyu on the 22nd of this month, and it was followed by a Twoli Zisinya meeting and today's ouster of Wetangula. Now, this chain of events is unmistakable. So why is Baba meddling in the affairs of other parties?
Where did you see him meddling in the affairs of other parties?
I've just narrated to you a chain of events that is unmistakable.
Raila Odinga is a leader in this country of repute, a leader many leaders would want to associate with. He has not only met the people you have mentioned, he has even been meeting cabinet secretaries. He has been meeting people from other political parties, including even those leaders you are talking about. Moses Wetangula just went to see Raila the day when we were making changes in the National Assembly. I don't know why you have not mentioned his name.
But those meetings are of consequence, aren't they? They are of political consequence,
What I'm saying is when you see leaders meeting Raila Odinga and then they're making changes in their parties, it doesn't mean that Raila Odinga has discussed those changes with them.
All right.
Yes.
Your coalition partner, ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi, has today said, quote, "I am aware that this mischief has been in the making for some time now. It is calculated to invade and destabilize all independent-minded political parties. The mischief has been escalated at a number of meetings, like the ones I've mentioned, led by the leader of a NASA member party, whose objective is to destroy and dominate everyone." His words today, it's clear he's referring to Raila, isn't he? And it appears that that's what's at play.
So, Anne, you know, Musalia Mudavadi is my senior in politics. I have a lot of respect for him. He has even been a deputy prime minister. He has even been a vice president, albeit for a very short period of time. He has been in politics longer. But sometimes I ask myself whether he's so clear on what he wants to do. When we have the senator, Malala, Senator for Kakamega, associate very closely with Raila Odinga, who is a member of NASA and a leader in NASA, we see Musalia Mudavadi attempting to de-whip him and punish him. But when his own members of parliament associate with the deputy president, he doesn't want us to take action against those MPs. So the question you will want to ask, who is Musalia Mudavadi working with? And who is he working for?
What's the answer to that? Buddy?
I don't know. He should come here and answer that. Because you see, when you see him blaming ghosts for his own problems, you know, these people should learn and how to run political parties.
Okay,
I
right.
would first, if I was, just allow me to say this, if I was Musalia Mudavadi, he should reorganize his party. I don't remember any time that ANC has ever conducted any election. I don't even know how he became the leader of ANC.
Ouch.
The first thing he would do is to conduct grassroots election, as ODM did in 2015, October to November, as we were planning to do this year. Instead of talking too much about others and talking about ghosts of party leaders who are interfering and meddling with others.
Okay.
For no reason.
Right together with what your brother party, if I may say, President Kenyatta's Jubilee is doing, what is the true purpose of the overall House leadership cleanup? Is it to ensure no one will oppose a referendum, or is it to ensure that an impeachment motion against the deputy president would sail through, or all the above?
First of all, you know, and we are in politics. And in politics, there are interests. And those interests must be safeguarded. Any political party worth its salt must clearly define its interests and safeguard and protect those interests. Those interests are supposed to be for the benefit of the citizens. And in this case, you are asking me about whether we are preparing for a referendum. I don't think you need changes in leadership to prepare for a referendum. What probably we are preparing for are some of the changes that would be made through Parliament. There are reforms that must go through Parliament. There are
changes to the executive you're referring to? Changes to the executive?
I don't know exactly, because the BBI has not produced its report. But there are certainly changes or proposals from the BBI report that will require Parliament to pass. That will you require Parliament to pass. And therefore you need a Parliament that first, Jubilee would want to put its house in order. NASA, or rather let me now talk about ODM, because I can see some NASA leaders speaking as if we are not together. I want to say that ODM is very clear. Immediately, Raila Odinga shook hands with Uhuru Kenyatta. He came and we called for a NEC meeting, and we ratified that, including even the parliamentary group meeting and our National Governing Council. The only organ of our party that has not ratified the handshake and the BBI is the National Delegates Conference. And therefore, as a party, we are very clear. There is no ambiguity in ODM. Okay. ODM is a very clear-minded party. Okay. We know what we want.
But you've been clear about BBI. Changes that could happen through Parliament. You've not spoken about the impeachment. Is that a motion that ODM would be given to drafting, supporting, in as far as the Deputy President is concerned? Do you need support for that?
I don't think, although impeaching, there's nothing really wrong with impeaching a Deputy President, but I don't think that is a priority for us as of now. Right. As a party, we are very clear. We want reforms in this country. We want a system of government that is accommodative. We want a system of government that is inclusive. We want a reformed electoral body. We want a country that is united. And that is exactly what we are going for. Our focus as a party, we have repeated it, we are not ambiguous about it. It's BBI, it's about reforms towards 2022.
All right, ODM as a party has already been quite vocal regarding the performance of the government. You even intimated that earlier in our discussion with Nzioka, and just a month ago, the minority whip, Junaid Mohammed, said the government should resign. Is that the bona fide position of the party, that this administration has made such a mess of things that it just needs to pack up and go home? And if that is the case, why cooperate with them?
Whereas I may not speak for Junaid, but I may speak for myself, I also spoke very strongly on that day. In fact, I'm the one who started speaking very strongly about the performance of government. It should be understood that despite handshake, we are still minority side in Parliament. We still have a responsibility. We are members of Parliament. We must speak for our people. When we felt that the government is not doing enough in terms of addressing the issues of the flood or the flooding that was taking place across the country, we spoke about it. We spoke about issues of police brutality. We spoke about expenditure on matters COVID. So we were addressing issues where we feel the government has not responded well. And you can see, by the way, immediately after we spoke, the government has responded. You can see this economic stimulus package. It was not in the original budget, as I mentioned. So that is what we expect. We expect to speak for our people, and the executive response.
In the spirit of your newfound cooperation with the executive, do you see Raila Odinga, your party leader, in government formally before Christmas?
That has not been discussed in our party. In fact, as a matter of fact, what we have discussed in the party is that we are not entering into a coalition government with Jubilee. What we are having is a cooperation with Jubilee where we work not as adversaries, but as people who have a common agenda to make life better for Kenyans.
But through these changes that you're anticipating in Parliament, is that a route to that?
How would the changes that we make in Parliament make Raila join executive? I don't
No,
see.
you referred to changes that through Parliament could, you know, change the way the country is governed.
Why don't you wait for those changes to come? I don't know exactly what changes BBI is going to propose. I don't sit in BBI.
But you have ambitions as a party,
I would
certainly.
be usurping. What we have decided as a party is to support BBI process.
Okay.
And to support the BBI report. What we have is the draft report, which we largely agreed with. We still expect some changes to be made. What we are saying and what the preparation that we are having as a party is that when that report comes and there are proposals, there will be three groups or categories of proposals. One, those which should be implemented administratively. That is the work of the executive. The second one will be through statutes. Statute amendments. Those ones will come to Parliament, and that is why we are putting our house in order and preparing for the same. And then possibly there may be a referendum, those changes that require a referendum. So as it is now, it would be too early for me to speak to the possible changes and what effects it would have in the governance structure of this country.
All right, and finally to you, given the changing political environment, and you have just said on this program that it appears that a side of NASA is speaking as if we are not really together, is it not time to reconsider NASA altogether?
You know, we have spoken about this as a party. We have already taken a stand. We have said that coalitions, pre-election coalitions are formed with the sole objective to win power. If you don't win power, you are at liberty to renegotiate, reorganize, restructure, and get into any other possible coalition and arrangements going to 2022. I would tell you with certainty, there is no possibility that we will go to 2022. I don't see it. I don't see that possibility, that we will go to 2022 with the current setup of NASA. We are going to, even if the NASA is going to remain as it is, we are going to admit and bring in and work with other people of like minds. You can even see already there is a group within Jubilee, a side of Jubilee that is already working with us. And you can see already we are building
Jubilee will join
coalition.
NASA. Is that what you're saying, Buddy?
Pardon?
Are you saying Jubilee will join NASA?
No, it is not a question of who joining who. We may work together and even form a new outfit. We may even form a new party.
Right.
We may form a new coalition.
Right.
We may, others may join others. I don't know exactly. This is going to be negotiated. You know, coalitions are formed through negotiation. And that negotiation has not begun formally. What we are seeing are informal discussions. But I would tell you, because I've been in politics for a while now, I am already foreseeing a possibility of us working with a section of Jubilee in whatever arrangement to get power and govern this country in a way that we envisaged.
But that brand NASA, that's a brand you want to hold on to. Is that what you're saying? You wouldn't be the ones to walk out of it?
Anne, I don't know why today you are slow in understanding me. I am not so sure whether the current
Maybe
NASA,
it's Sunday and I'm tired,
yes,
who knows?
the current NASA will obtain to 2022.
Okay.
You are already seeing some signs that some of the members of NASA may not work with others. So those who may not work with us may leave. Those who may work with us, may continue working with us, will continue. And in the process, we are going to get other people, even from the Jubilee side, and we form another outfit that we think has a common agenda for 2022. And after that, Kenyans will choose between which various formations, which ones they want to support or they want to entrust and trust with the leadership.
Even on a slow day, that I perfectly understood. Thank you so much. John Buddy, he is the minority leader in the National Assembly. For speaking to us, we're taking a short break. We're back with sport after this.